Welcome to Things You Don't Know. Today's episode is called From Fire to LEDs, The Strange History of the Light Bulb.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is one of those everyday topics that sound simple until you look closely.
Yeah, exactly, Dr. Janine. We flip a switch, the room lights up, and we barely notice it. But for most of human history, night was not something people controlled easily. Night was dark, dangerous, expensive, and limiting.
You're quite right, Dr. Weaver. Before electric light, people depended on fire. Campfires, torches, candles, oil lamps, whale oil, later on kerosene and gaslight. Each one was useful, but each had problems.
Yeah, candles could be expensive. Oil lamps needed fuel. Gaslight could leak or explode. Open flames caused fires. And even when these worked, they usually gave much less light than we expect today.
So the light bulb was not just a household convenience, it was part of a much longer struggle among human beings to make the night useful.
Yeah, and it gave us one of the most famous stories of invention in American culture, which was Thomas Edison and the light bulb.
But as usual, as we found, that simple version isn't totally wrong, but it leaves out a lot.
Yeah, today we will talk about what Edison did, what the inventors did, why Tesla and Westinghouse mattered, how electric light changed society, and why old incandescent bulbs are now being pushed aside by LEDs.
So this is not just a story about a bulb.
Nope, it's a story about fire, science, business, power, public fear, invention myths, and the modern world.
Let's start before electricity. For thousands of years, artificial light meant flame.
And flame was both wonderful and dangerous. Fire allowed cooking, warmth, protection, and nighttime gathering, but it also brought smoke, soot, burns, and house fires.
Candles improved control, but they were not cheap for many households. A poor family could not simply light every room all evening.
Yeah, that's kind of important. Light was once tied to wealth. If light costs fuel, then darkness shapes your schedule. You go to bed earlier, you work less after sunset, you read less at night.
Oil lamps were another step. Different societies used different oils, including olive oil, animal fats, whale oil, and eventually kerosene.
Yeah, kerosene lamps were very important in the 19th century, but they still involved flame, fumes, fuel, and a significant fire risk.
Then cities began using gaslight. Gaslighting transformed streets, theaters, businesses, and wealthier homes. It made cities feel more modern.
Yeah, that's true. But gaslight was not perfect. It produced heat, it could smell, it could leak, and it still involved combustion, particularly indoors.
So by the 1800s, people were looking for something cleaner, brighter, and just plain safer.
Yeah, indeed. Electric light looked like the answer, but it took a long time to make it practical. So, this is where we need to correct the simple school book line of Edison invented the light bulb. Help us with that.
I think a better statement, Dr. Weaver, is Edison helped make a practical, commercially useful, incandescent light bulb and lighting system, but he was not the first person to produce electric light.
Electric light was being explored decades earlier than Edison. Arc lamps, for example, produced very bright light by creating an electrical arc between carbon rods.
Arc lights were powerful, but not ideal for homes. They were too bright, too harsh, and difficult for ordinary rooms.
The challenge was to make a smaller, steadier, safer light. That meant an incandescent lamp, a bulb where electricity heats a filament until it glows.
But that created several problems. What should the filament be made of? How do you keep it from burning up? How do you remove oxygen from the bulb? How do you make it last long enough? And how do you power it reliably?
Yeah, and that was the real challenge. Not just making something glow, but making it useful.
Now, many inventors tried. Some bulbs worked briefly, some were just too expensive, some used too much power, and some burned out too quickly.
So Edison enters a crowded field, not an empty one.
Edison's great contribution was not that he alone imagined electric light, it was that he and his team made important improvements and connected the bulb to a practical system.
Yeah, his Menlo Park laboratory tested many materials for filaments. His team improved the vacuum inside the bulb and made lamps that lasted longer.
As a son of New Jersey, folks, I have to brag on that laboratory. You get a chance to see it, it's beautiful. Edison thought beyond the bulb. He understood that electric lighting required generators, wires, meters, switches, sockets, and most important, customers.
Yeah, that is the point worth keeping. Edison helped turn electric light from a laboratory experiment into a business and a public utility.
But we should not give him every ounce of credit.
No, 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 not even close. Joseph Swan in Britain developed important incandescent lamps. Other inventors also worked on filaments and patents. Edison's English company eventually merged with Swan's company to form Ediswan.
And Louis Latimer deserves a mention too. He was an African American inventor and draftsman who improved the manufacturing of carbon filaments and worked in the electric lighting industry.
So, Edison does matter for sure. But the light bulb was not one person's miracle, it was a chain of improvements.
That's often how invention works. One person becomes famous, but many people build the road.
Now let's bring in Tesla, because this is where the story moves from bulbs to power systems.
Now that matters, ladies and gentlemen, because an incandescent bulb doesn't care very much whether current is AC or DC. A filament glows because electric current heats it, but the system delivering electricity to homes and cities becomes the big issue.
Yeah, it really did become the big issue. Edison favored direct current or DC. Now, in a DC system, electricity flows in one direction. His early lighting systems used DC currents.
DC current certainly worked, but it had a serious limitation at the time. It was harder to transmit efficiently over long distances. You needed power stations relatively close to customers.
Yeah. Now, Tesla's work with alternating current or AC helped solve that problem. AC changes directions many times per second, and it can be transformed to high voltage for long distance transmission, then stepped down for safer local use.
Another prominent businessman, George Westinghouse, saw the commercial value of AC and backed it. Tesla's AC motor and related electrical ideas helped make AC a powerful competitor to Edison's DC system.
Yeah, this evolved into the famous War of Currents. Edison's DC system versus Westinghouse Tesla's AC system.
There's a film by that name. It's wonderful, folks. It was a technical difference, but it was also business, politics, and public relations. Edison and his allies tried to portray AC as dangerous.
Yeah, when actually the reverse was probably true. And here we should start mentioning something uncomfortable, but briefly. During this period, during the current wars, animal electrocutions were used to show the dangers of alternating current. Edison actually electrocuted dogs and other animals and killed them in these demonstrations.
Awful. The later electrocution of Topsy the elephant is often connected to Edison and the current war in popular culture, although that story is often oversimplified. But the broader point remains the current war could be ugly.
And it was not just two inventors politely disagreeing. No, it was a fierce struggle over who would power the modern world.
And AC won the larger battle because it was better suited to long distance distribution.
So, if we ask why household lighting became practical across cities and regions, Tesla and Westinghouse deserve serious credit.
They do. Edison helped make electric light commercially practical. Tesla and Westinghouse helped make large scale electric power practical.
And the ordinary light bulb sat right in the middle of that conflict.
Now, once electricity reached homes and businesses, the world changed quickly.
Yeah, electric light was cleaner than gas light, safer than open flame, and easier to control. A person could light a room with a switch instead of a match.
There are many benefits. Streets became brighter, stores could stay open later, factories could extend working hours, theaters, hotels, restaurants, and amusement parks all became part of a brighter nighttime economy.
Yeah, there's a social and psychological effect here too. Light changes how safe people feel. A lit street is not automatically safe, but it feels different from a dark street.
It certainly does. Electric light changed education as well. Students could read more easily after dark. Families could gather in brighter rooms. Work and leisure both expanded into the evening.
But there was a downside. If light made evening work possible, employers could also demand longer hours. The light bulb helped free people from darkness, but it also helped create a society that sometimes just never stops working.
That's always the case, ladies and gentlemen. That's a recurring problem with technology. It solves one problem and creates another.
Exactly. Artificial light gave us more control over time, but it also weakened the natural boundary between day and night.
The early incandescent bulb was revolutionary, but it was not the final form.
Yeah, early carbon filaments gave way to better materials. Tungsten became especially important because it could handle very high temperatures and lasted much longer.
For much of the 20th century, the familiar incandescent bulb used a tungsten filament sealed inside glass.
It worked beautifully in one sense: warm light, simple design, inexpensive manufacturing.
But it wasted a lot of energy as heat. Anyone who's touched an old incandescent bulb after it's been on knows that.
Yep. Then came fluorescent lighting, which was more efficient. Fluorescent tubes became common in offices, schools, stores, and factories.
Now, they saved energy, but often had their own drawbacks: flicker, a harsh color, buzzing features, and a cold institutional feel.
Compact fluorescent lamps, or CFLs, were later promoted for homes. They used less electricity than incandescent bulbs, but many people disliked them. Some took time to warm up, some gave unpleasant light, and they contained small amounts of mercury.
So the public was ready for something better.
That brings us to LEDs.
Now, LED stands for light emitting diode. LEDs do not work by heating a filament until it glows. They use semiconductor materials to produce light much more efficiently.
Early LED bulbs could be expensive and sometimes had a cold, kind of bluish look, but modern LEDs have improved amazingly, greatly. You can buy warm white bulbs, dimmable bulbs, decorative bulbs, small smart bulbs, and bulbs shaped to look like old Edison style lamps.
And this is why incandescent bulbs are being phased out for common use. The issue is not that someone comes into your house and takes the bulbs from your lamps.
No, it's about efficiency standards for newly made or imported bulbs. Common household bulbs must meet higher efficiency standards and levels, and ordinary incandescent bulbs generally cannot meet those levels.
The newer rules push the market even more strongly toward LEDs.
Some people object because they dislike regulation. Others miss the warm light of old bulbs. But LEDs now can closely imitate that warm color while using far less electricity and lasting much longer.
So, ironically, the incandescent bulb, once the symbol of modern invention, is becoming a historical technology.
Yeah, and that is an interesting twist. The old bulb that replaced candles and gaslight is now being replaced by something more efficient.
The story keeps moving
Yeah, it really does. Let's step back for a minute. Why does this invention matter so much?
because it changed the human relationship with darkness.
That's really not a small thing. Before dependable artificial light, sunset had much more power over daily life.
Electric light made streets safer, factories more productive, homes more comfortable, and cities more active at night.
It changed reading, cooking, studying, shopping, entertainment, policing, transportation, and social life.
It also helped sell electricity itself. Once people wanted electric light, they accepted wiring, power stations, and electric bills. Then came appliances, radios, televisions, computers, and all the accoutrements of the modern electrified home.
Yes, indeed. In that sense, the light bulb was a gateway technology.
It made electricity desirable and eventually affordable to ordinary people.
Well, at least somewhat. Have you gotten your electric bill recently?
I
Um,
take that back.
yeah, but if we should also remember the biological side. Humans still need darkness. Too much artificial light can interfere with sleep rhythms. Night work can affect health. Bright screens late at night are part of the same story.
So the light gave us freedom, but it also gave us responsibility.
That may be the most modern part of the story. We no longer struggle only to create light, we also struggle to use it wisely.
As with so many things, there is one more strange piece of the story. The light bulb became a cartoon symbol of a sudden idea.
Yeah, yeah, a glowing bulb over somebody's head. Yeah.
But as we've said, Dr. Weaver, the actual history of the light bulb was not sudden at all.
Oh, that's so right. It was not one flash of genius, it was decades of experiments, rival claims, failed materials, better vacuums, improved filaments, electrical systems, investors, patents, lawsuits, and public demonstrations.
So the light bulb became the symbol of instant inspiration, even though its own history shows slow persistence.
That is almost funny.
It is. It is also useful. When people say invention is about one brilliant idea, the light bulb says otherwise.
Yeah, real invention is often repeated effort,
Testing,
failing,
improving,
Competing.
and sometimes giving credit to people history almost forgot.
Yeah. So, who invented the light bulb?
The honest answer is no single person invented the whole story.
That's correct. Edison helped make the practical incandescent bulb and lighting system famous and commercially successful.
Joseph Swan and others worked on electric lamps too.
Lewis Latimer helped improved carbon filament manufacturing and deserves to be remembered for sure.
Absolutely. Tesla and Westinghouse helped make AC power the winning system for large scale electrical distribution.
And LEDs now represent the next major step: more light with less wasted energy.
From fire to candles, from gaslight to incandescent bulbs, from fluorescent lamps to LEDs, the goal has always been similar: more useful light, less danger, less waste, and more control over human life.
But control brings questions. How much light do we need? How late should we work? How much darkness do our bodies still require?
The light bulb changed the world because it changed time.
It changed what people could do after sunset.
It changed the city.
It changed the home.
It changed business.
And it changed the meaning of night.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the next time you flip a switch, remember, you are touching a story that runs from firelight to laboratories, from Edison to Tesla, from gas lamps to LEDs.
And that story is still being written.
We could go on forever, folks, but I think we have given you the basic framework of this idea. So thank you for joining us on Things You Don't Know.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. That's so important for the success of this podcast. We need the likes, we need the subscriptions. And tell us while you're at it what everyday object you would like us to explore next. We would be open to that.
We would. Until next time, keep asking questions.
And keep looking for the stories hiding in plain sight. This has been Things You Don't Know. So for Dr. Deneen and myself, I bid you adieu.